So the question's being asked, should big publishers and creators be allowed to do crowdfunding? And I mean, the question, just to cut to the chase, the question is a bit absurd. You can't allow people to, come in and use the platform or not. I think the idea of Kickstarter or Indiegogo suddenly coming in and saying, "Oh, sorry, you're too well known. You can't use our platform," is absurd. That's not going to happen. But the deeper question is, why are people trying? Why are people concerned about this? And where can this lead? Is there a problem with the publishers and big name creators using it? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, this is Perch. This question had been rolling around, I think, for a while when Ethan Van Sciver started making a lot of money off of Cyberfrog, and then Todd McFarlane came in and made a bunch of money off Spawn. And the question was starting to kind of percolate and bubble at that point. But then Boom Studios did the BRZKR. And by the way, for the video I did on that several weeks ago, I'm aware it's BRZKR. I was kind of making fun of the fact that they spell the thing BRZKR. I love that it's this new, and I think it's actually not that new. It's dying off in popularity. It's a Silicon Valley tech startup. Let's just remove the vowels and we got ourselves a brand that we can trademark. I think that's not as hip as it was back in, say, 2017 and 18, but here we are. I'm just making fun of it. I'm not a complete idiot. I'm somewhat an idiot, but not a complete one. Anyway, so BRZKR makes a lot of money, and it proceeds to, do very, very well. And then there's some controversy about it because the comic was being made, and then it basically gets this huge spike of cash. And it started out really strong and then slowed down quite a bit. I mean, I think everybody believed it was going to easily surpass $1 million, and then a lot of people started getting really pissed. And they started getting pissed for a variety of reasons, and I did a video on that. I'm not going to recap all that now, but it's interesting that the argument kind of settled into should they be allowed to do this? Is this something people should do? One of the reasons why people have said they shouldn't be allowed to do this is because Boom is got some payment issues with some of their creators. There's been some late payments and some kind of difficulty in getting some things paid. I think that's a problem. Absolutely. If you do work, you should get paid. I don't believe that should be conflated with this Kickstarter issue. It's if somebody signs a contract, owes money, then you should pay that person. It has nothing really to do with, should they be allowed to do a Kickstarter? I mean, arguably you could say they should be allowed to do the Kickstarter because maybe they'll make some more money and actually be able to pay their people. But that's, I think those are two separate issues, and merging them together is just not healthy. But it brings up a problem, and the problem, and then Noctura by Scott Snyder and Tony Daniel came out. That didn't do as well, but it does. It's basically a pre-release expanded edition. It's where we're seeing a new range of creators who have the ability to do so, go out and they get an image deal, and then they proceed to go and they do a little bit. They basically then do a crowdfunded comic. Now that it's they basically have the contract in hand. Now they're going out to get some extra money, and that seems weird. I mean, not weird. Slimy is too bad a word, but it doesn't seem great. This idea that you got some people who are big enough that they can go and get a comic deal anytime they want, and then they're going to do that deal, and then they're going to go on to crowdfunding and get a little bit more. It does feel a little dodgy. I'm make no mistake about it. It does feel a little odd. I think that part of the idea behind crowdfunding was the idea that you were going to raise money to do your project. So there's a risk element to it. When you walk into it having taken all the risk away, you're not using the platform as it was originally intended to be used for. However, there's not really a remedy for this. There's not really you can come in here and say, well, we're not going to let those people come on. I mean, I suppose these companies could make some kind of half-baked rule about, hey, if you have the project already funded another way, then you can't run it here. But that's going to be impossible because, you could argue that if you have several successful Kickstarters or Indiegogos, then basically one is funding the next. in a lot of cases. So again, look at Ethan Van Sciver. He makes high six figures or higher. I have no idea what he's up to now, but he makes a lot of money off of the Cyberfrog property. He funds the ability for that comic to go, and then he basically is making a profit, and that some of that profit is going to go in to tee up the next comic. He's not playing with the same risk as, say, Narwhal, that guy who's trying to get some things out while he's working a day job. Those are two different worlds, but there's not really a way to solve anything there. You can't go in and start to regulate the platform based on who's coming in with more money or less. Everybody's coming in with a different place. I think it is going to put an extra burden on unknown creators to find a way to stand out. For a long time, the Kickstarter Indiegogo platforms were, not used heavily by big names, and clearly they're going to come in greater numbers now. And when they do, that's going to draw attention, and it's going to take attention away from small independent creators. And that's a shame for the small independent creators, but again, it's kind of it's capitalism, and it's how do you can't stop that. I think for Kickstarter and Indiegogo's sake, hopefully they are looking at some kind of emerging artists or new creators or people who have a first-time campaign, or some way to give a little bit of extra promotion and marketing to people who are new, who are indies, true indie creators. I think that would be a smart thing for them to do. I don't think they have to do it. And frankly, if Kickstarter and Indiegogo are making their money off the big names, they're not going to do it. They're just going to ignore it, and they're going to just take the money they can take. But I do think there needs to be some services for people who are not, Scott Snyder or Ethan Van Sciver or what Boom is doing with BRZKR. I think you do need to have some model for people who, are doing their first campaign, or they have never done a campaign that's made more than $10,000. They've always stayed lower. I think the one thing that I would like to see more of, and I point to all the creators, and I understand the game of it, is when you set the goal, I do think there should be some, at least eye on some of this stuff that, I watch big name creators, and all the guys I've talked to do it, where they come in and they say, hey, we're going to set we need to make $12,000 to fund this comic. They know based on their name and their draw and the last 4 or 5 campaigns they've done that they're going to make, $200,000-300,000. And so then it gives them a nice little number. This is funded at 450% of goal. And I think there needs to be a, hey, you guys got to set the goal higher here. They're just, put it this way. I look at Scott Snyder's Noctura, and it's, $40,000 goal. And that Snyder is going to make that. Everybody knows that Snyder and Tony Daniel, they've got an Image comic. They're able to throw some art and some other things on it. They know they're going to make that. So 40,000 is to me is lame. I think that they should have to do something, something bigger. But again, I don't have the idea of how to do that. I couldn't tell you how do you get in there and monkey with it, and I'd be afraid, frankly, of somebody getting in there and monkeying with it too much. I think if you get in there and you really start modifying things, and you put a bunch of regulations, and you have a strong possibility of tipping the whole thing over. And I think that's worse. So it's in many cases it's better to do nothing than to start to mess with it. I would prefer nothing than a bad way of fixing this. I don't know. I think, like I said, I can look at anyone. I picked on Scott Snyder there. I was going to just look and see, what has Ethan Van Sciver done. It's I don't even, where can I even see this? 1 million. He's made over $1 million on this comic. I don't see the original funding goal here. That's in here somewhere. I don't. The point is, I think you guys understand the point that I'm trying to make here is that there needs to be some thought put into how do you properly do this stuff, where you set an initial goal and then you basically, I don't know. I don't claim to have the answers here. I don't. But I will say, kind of to the original question, is it fair? Yeah, It's fair. It's fair for these other companies to come in and use these platforms. It would be unfair to start to regulate them off of it. Does that have a consequence that will hurt some smaller names? Yeah, it will. Now, granted, I don't think that those smaller names had such a huge advantage anyway. I think that you could make a solid argument that these big names coming in and doing crowdfunding will draw more attention to campaigns and hopefully bring more people and more dollars to everybody, including the small guys. I think that's a likely scenario. So I don't think this is all bad. But it does mean that some of the small guys are going to have to up their game on what they do. That's fair. And I think that's life. So it's interesting to see the articles. It's interesting to see people. Like I said, some people are conflating this whole Boom Studios issue with a bunch of grievances against Boom, and that's its own thing. It is what it is. But what do you think? Is it fair, unfair? Should people get involved and try and solve this? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Send me an email. Anything you'd like. Happy to talk to it. If any of those people would like to come in and tell me their side of the story, I'd love to talk to you too. But most importantly of all, thank you for listening.